Imagine waking up tomorrow and being told you no longer belong. Today, rejection means embarrassment, maybe a lonely weekend. We feel it when we are left off an invite list or ignored in a group chat. If you roll back the clock tens of thousands of years, exile meant something entirely different. It guaranteed a biological death. This diagram shows how ancient human life actually functioned. A single person could not hunt large animals, build shelter, and watch for predators all at the same time. Notice these interlocking rings. They represent a shared ecosystem. You pooled your calories, maintained a communal fire, and shared the responsibility of keeping watch. The tribe was an engine engineered to keep everyone alive. Exile meant this entire protective structure vanished instantly. You were severed from the group and dropped into a biological vacuum. Ancient human societies used banishment to physically remove a person from the perimeter of safety. They forced the knot into an environment where human beings simply were not built to survive independently. The descent began the moment the sun went down on the first day. For the first time in an exiled person's life, there was no communal fire to sit beside, no familiar voices to break the quiet, and most dangerously, no human perimeter standing between them and the dark. The ancient wilderness was extremely loud. Wind moved through the trees, insects hummed, and unseen predators actively tracked anything that looked vulnerable. Without the tribe, every single one of those sounds demanded immediate attention. This creates an immediate biological problem: hypervigilance. Humans need deep REM sleep to function, but a solitary person in an active predator zone cannot afford to drop their guard. There is no shared night watch to tap in when exhaustion hits. Without that rest, the body begins to fail fast. Within hours, cognitive function drops. Decision-making slows down. The physical reaction times needed to evade danger or catch food become dangerously sluggish. Long before a banished person had to worry about starving or freezing, their basic biological need to sleep was overridden by primal terror. Daylight brought a completely different set of problems. The tribe held generations of accumulated knowledge: which animal paths to avoid, where water pooled during a drought, which plants were toxic. The exile had to figure all of that out from scratch, while doing the physical labor of an entire group. We can actually map the math of solitary survival. This dual line graph shows what happens to a person's energy reserves over time. That red line is caloric expenditure. Gathering firewood, building shelter, and searching for water alone burns massive amounts of energy. Meanwhile, the blue line, caloric intake, stays low and erratic. Taking down large game requires a coordinated group. A solitary human is forced to rely on foraging for low-yield plants and berries. The energy spent looking for that food almost always exceeds the calories gained from eating it. The margins were razor thin. A twisted ankle or a minor cut would stop the gathering cycle entirely. Without a tribal surplus to feed you while you recovered, a small injury was lethal. We tend to assume an exiled person could simply walk over the nearest hill and join a new community, but ancient groups were deeply cautious of outsiders. A wandering stranger represented a threat, bringing potential conflict or competition for scarce resources. Approaching a new tribe was heavily restricted and often fatal. Starvation in the wilderness was a mathematical certainty. Once you severed a human from their shared energy pool, the numbers simply did not add up to survival. The physical threats of the wilderness worked in tandem with something far quieter. The isolation slowly dismantled the mind. Days stretched into weeks of absolute unbroken silence. There were no shared meals, no stories told around the fire, no one to talk to, and no one to reflect your existence back to you. Humans evolved as obligate social creatures. We rely on connection to regulate our emotions and process fear. When you strip away that social mirror, the burden of isolation becomes exhausting. Without a group to ground them, a solitary person's mind naturally begins to slip into paranoia and severe distress. We still carry traces of that ancient reality today. When we experience social rejection, our brains process it as physical pain. That intense anxiety you feel when you are excluded is an ancient neurological alarm system, originally calibrated to keep you alive in the wilderness. Our modern fear of being left out is a primal, evolutionary scar.